You're standing at the edge of a river in Africa. A lion is drinking on one bank. A crocodile is floating on the other. Two of the deadliest animals on the continent, 10 feet apart. You brace for it. You wait for the fight. It never comes. The lion finishes drinking. The crocodile sinks back under. Nothing happens. That should strike you as strange. Two apex killers, that close, zero blood. Because the picture most of us carry is of the top predators locked in some endless war. Lion versus tiger, shark versus orca, a permanent battle for the top spot. That picture is almost entirely wrong. In 2019, marine biologist Salvador Jorgensen tracked 165 great white sharks off the California coast and found something nobody was expecting. The ocean's most feared predator runs. Every single time. And by the end of this, you'll see why nearly every apex predator on the planet follows the same quiet rule. One that's been running your life too, without your permission. Start with the basics. What actually makes an animal an apex predator? Simple. As an adult, nothing hunts it. It sits at the very top, no natural enemy above it. You'd assume that means total confidence. Fear nothing, fight anything. It's the opposite. Being at the top doesn't make an animal reckless. It makes it careful. Look at it from the animal's side. Every day is a math problem. Calories in, calories out, injury risk against reward. A lion has no health insurance. A shark has no hospital. In the wild, there is no emergency room, no stitches, no antibiotics. A broken leg isn't a bad day. It's a death sentence. So the real question isn't which rival species killed the most apex predators through history. It's how many died from their own bodies breaking down after one unnecessary risk. And the answer points hard toward the second. Here's the twist inside that. The same instincts that make a predator lethal against prey also make it terrified of getting hurt. A hunt against a gazelle is calculated, fast, low risk. Miss, and you just try again tomorrow. A fight against another apex predator is a different gamble entirely. Even the winner limps away wounded. And a wounded apex predator can't hunt. And one that can't hunt starves. So evolution didn't make top predators braver. It made them better at avoidance. Watch how that plays out on a single patch of African savanna, where 5 hunters tried to survive in the same space. Lions, leopards, cheetahs, spotted hyenas, and wild dogs. If they all fought for the same ground the same way at the same time, half of them would be dead within a season. Instead, they carved the world up with no meeting and no vote. Just instinct, rearranging the mapper across generations. Lions own the ground during the cooler hours, so leopards adapt. They become climbers, hauling their kills straight up into trees to keep both the meal and their lives away from lions and hyenas. Cheetahs go the other way, hunting in the punishing heat of midday, the exact hours lions are too hot and too lazy to move. It's not the ideal time to hunt, it's the safest one. And the wild dogs, smaller than all of them, simply run, covering enormous distances to stay out of lion territory altogether. Nobody drew these lines. There's no treaty. Just thousands of years of the individuals who avoided conflict living long enough to pass that instinct on. Researchers call it niche partitioning. And it isn't only about space, it's about time. Across parts of the Americas, jaguars and pumas share almost identical territory, the same prey, the same terrain. What keeps them from colliding constantly is the clock. One leans toward daylight, the other shifts into the night. two apex predators working different shifts in the same forest. But nothing shows the rule more cleanly than what happened off California. Every autumn, great white sharks gather near the Farallon Islands just off San Francisco, some over 18 feet long. This is their ground, their hunting season for young elephant seals, and a typical year sees around 40 kills right around the island. For a long time, everyone assumed nothing in that water challenged them. Then the tagging data showed something odd. On certain days, every shark vanished at once and stayed gone. Not for hours, for weeks, sometimes an entire year. What was scaring off the ocean's most feared hunter, orcas, and not even attacking, just passing through? The moment killer whales entered the area, the sharks didn't wait around to test who was tougher. Tags showed some fleeing within minutes of an orca simply showing up, even when the orcas stayed less than an hour. And once the sharks left, shark-driven seal kills in that zone dropped by more than half, sometimes to nearly zero. Two apex predators, same prey, same water, and one just leaves. No standoff, no test of strength, an instant total retreat. Scientists still aren't certain whether the sharks fear becoming prey themselves or simply refuse to compete against something built like a torpedo with teeth. Either way, the message is identical. Even the ocean's apex hunter has decided some fights aren't worth having. Sometimes the split is even simpler. The world itself gets divided in half. A tiger and a crocodile sharing a river system sounds like the ultimate showdown, and in reality it's almost a non-event. The tiger owns the land. The crocodile owns the water. One breathes air and stalks through grass. The other waits submerged, barely a ripple on the surface. They aren't enemies. They're neighbors who never show up to the same meeting. Split the map by element itself, land versus water, and two entirely different killers occupy two entirely different battlefields with almost no overlap. And none of this is a conscious decision. No tiger ever thought, I'll avoid the water so I don't have to deal with crocodiles. The behaviour got baked into the species itself, generation after generation, because the individuals who ignored the boundary didn't live long enough to pass their genes forward. You're looking at millions of years of trial and error, except the failed trials never got a second attempt. So what were they doing all those hours they weren't fighting? Watching, tracking, learning the schedule of every other predator in the territory, the way you'd learn a colleague's habits without ever having the conversation. Camera trap studies have caught it happening in real time, competing predators adjusting day by day based on where the rival had most recently been seen. Almost like reading a shared, invisible calendar nobody wrote down. That's not luck. That's calculation running on pure instinct. But splitting space and time still doesn't cover the rarest moment. When two apex predators actually do come face to face in the same clearing, with nowhere left to retreat. Even then, most of the time nothing happens. Researchers who study these encounters describe something like a silent negotiation. A long stare, a stiffened posture, ears back, muscles tensed, every signal of readiness on display. And then, more often than not, one simply turns and walks away. It looks like a standoff. It's actually a conversation. Every twitch of muscle, every angle of the body is information. I could win this, but I don't want to pay for it. Do you? Most of the time, both sides read the same answer in each other. Not worth it, and part without a drop of blood. The size of the teeth was never what prevented the fight. It was the shared understanding that violence between equals rarely produces a clean winner. Just two damaged animals and one empty stretch of forest neither controls any better than before. So why does direct conflict ever happen at all? Because sometimes the math changes. When food gets scarce enough, when territory gets tight enough, the risk of starving becomes worse than the risk of fighting. And that's when you see lions killing leopard cubs, wolves killing coyotes. But notice the shape of even those exceptions. It's ambush. A predator picking off the vulnerable young of a rival, then leaving immediately rather than facing an adult on equal footing. Even the exception obeys the rule. Take the smallest possible fight, get out fast. The image of two titans locked in combat until one falls barely exists in nature. It exists in documentaries edited for drama and in your imagination. Because apex predators didn't reach the top by being the most aggressive, they reached it by being the best at knowing which battles to skip. And that isn't really a story about lions or sharks. Every day, you run the same calculation. The argument you don't start, the confrontation you quietly walk away from, the fight that isn't worth what it would cost the things you're actually trying to protect. You call it being the bigger person. Nature just calls it survival math. That wasn't weakness. That was a lion choosing not to swim toward a crocodile it didn't need to fight. Strength was never about being willing to fight everyone. It was about being strong enough to know you don't have to.